Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. It is the hottest time of the year. It is SummerSlam weekend, and this year it truly is SummerSlam weekend, the first ever two-night SummerSlam emanating from MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Who could possibly join yours truly for an event of this magnitude? The one, the only, Josh Isenberg. Welcome into the Juice Box, brother.
Hey, Juice, I'm excited. 12 matches to dive into. This could be the longest Juice Box of all time. But no, I'm excited to talk about all these really unique matches that we're going to see. Two completely different nights. Saturday, kind of traditional. Sunday could be chaos. So I'm looking forward to breaking it all down here on another episode of the Juice Box.
Look at you paying attention to my outros. That's really nice to hear. I mean, you're on the show enough to where you've heard it 1,000 times, so
That's true.
It's good that you can retain that information. Yeah, man, 6 matches each night. One night is more standard. There's really no stipulations outside of titles on the line. And then night 2, all hell is going to break loose with cages, triple threats, TLC, street fight, no DQ, no count out, last chance. It's insanity. But I mean, look, 2 nights. This is the first time they're trying to pull this off. Initially, if you recall, they said that next year in Minneapolis was going to be the first 2-night SummerSlam after they unsuccessfully, again, did not get WrestleMania to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But not so fast, my friend. They said, you know what? Let's just do it this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the main event on Sunday, John Cena being a part of it, that, you know, this is his final year. They probably figured, well, because of that, that can be its own night. Like, that's going to set up its own night of levity, and people are going to be so tuned in for that. So we might as well try the 2-night thing, maximize what we've got. 6 matches each, which we bring this up all the time, that 5 to 7 match Triple H PLE zone is where they like to live. Cardi B is going to be the hostess with the mostest for this. We could potentially discuss if she's going to be involved in some things. We got Jelly Roll in a match. The special start time each night at 6 p.m. Hell yeah. I'm here for that, especially after I was in Dallas for All In, and even though they were an hour behind the East Coast time, I was there from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. and that was the entire actual show. So this is going to be nice to have probably 3 hours on each night. But man, Josh, just looking at the card as a whole, especially if you're going to be putting in your picks for Pool Party Gaming, we're doing it again. What intrigues you most about night 1? Just looking at it as a whole, because there's a world title match, a women's title match, and a women's tag title match, but everything else is storyline based. So this is kind of intriguing. What intrigues you most about night 1?
I think what intrigues me most about night 1 is Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Paul Heyman. They're all on the same night, and they've, not necessarily been involved in the exact same feuds, but there's so much history. There's so much lineage between Paul Heyman and, the guys that he's working with now and the guys that are in the past. Is there some sort of, do we see Roman twice in one night? Do we see a potential Seth Rollins if he really is not, incredibly hurt? There's a lot of what ifs. What if Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross, with all the rumors across, did he sign an extension? What's going to happen in that match? I think there's a lot more what ifs in night 1 than there is in night 2, because I think night 2, I'm going to guess that I think we're going to agree more on who wins night 2 in those matches than night 1.
Yeah, and I think the most poignant point you made there was we got the guys that were in, Rollins, you would assume he's going to be at this show no matter what, regardless of him being on screen or not. I like to think he's going to be there. His wife's going to be in a prominent match on night 2. But the fact that you got Roman and Paul and Punk all on night one, even with the injury, quote unquote, to Seth Rollins, you can't help but think that something, is going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's Punk could be cost the championship, or he wins it but loses it immediately to a cash in, or whatever. There's so much going on specifically with just those three people that will be there, not counting Seth. And that covers, two huge matches that we'll discuss here. A lot of intrigue there. We also don't know in another match if Drew McIntyre is even going to show up based on his, I believe, his visa or some sort of issue. So that might be an interesting thing to talk about. But let's just dive in. 6 matches. Let's start off with a rematch from Night of Champions, which was it Night of Champions or was it Night of Matches? Because this match didn't have a title on the line then. It doesn't have one now, and they're running it back. So, Josh, I ask you, Karrion Kross, Sami Zayn, does this lead into a third match regardless of outcome?
I probably would say yes. I think, I was a big proponent of Karrion Kross's first PLE in a long time and his first singles PLE in quite some time for him to pick up the victory at Night of Champions, but they continued that storyline with Sami Zayn and him heading into SummerSlam. I really don't think, again, I don't think Sami needs winning under his belt. I think he's a guy that has been so popular for so long, and this is a match that I wouldn't have been surprised if they held it off to the, whether it was, throw him on SmackDown on Friday, because there's not really many brand splits, or even the next Monday on Raw. Surprising that this one really got the billing. I'm excited for it. But again, this is going to be probably the second or third match in the card, kind of a filler match, even though both guys deserve a little bit better. It does go to a third match because I do think Karrion Kross picks up the win. A lot of rumors speculating, will he re-sign? Has he re-signed? I just can't see him going anywhere else because of how much he loves WWE, and I think how much they've actually given him some screen time on Monday Night Raw the past few months just to immediately cut ties and say, hey, we're not going to offer him a contract. I just think he's too WWE tailor-made, and I think he does realize he's just getting into his own on the main roster. It's too quick to pull the bait on him. So a big win for Karrion Kross would be huge for the next 5 or 6 months on what they do with Kross.
And I tend to agree. I think that the sentiment going into Night of Champions was like, wow, Karrion Kross could get a win here. It's just a, kind of a random PLE, no harm, no foul. Sami Zayn could be fine no matter what happens in the match, yet Sami still won. But the promos over the last couple of weeks make you think maybe Karrion Kross is on the up and up, that he still has a little bit of he's a little control still of what Sami Zayn does, because Karrion Kross is like, look, man, like I'm telling you. And Sami said, look, if you win, all right. So
you want me to say,
yeah. So this is a, put up or shut up. I like to think Karrion Kross wins, but I do wonder, because this will play back to what you said about the rumor and speculation of his contract. If Karrion Kross doesn't win this match, what is next? Could Sami still find a way to be wanting the respect from Karrion Kross after, and still not join up with him, but let him hear what he has to say, even if Kross loses? Or is Kross going to go away, just not forever, but I think a lot of the rumors will ramp up if Kross loses this match to Sami Zayn.
I don't see a future if he loses. Not necessarily future in WWE, but I don't see what his next step is. I think the next step is ultimately him winning this match. If they go to a third match, fine. Do you see the beginning slight, turning of Sami? I think Sami was an amazing heel in a very bad time in WWE. You could always go back to him, battling. Does he want to go to the dark side? But again, Sami Zayn, win or loss, doesn't hurt him. Karrion Kross loses, I have no idea what they do with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I don't know what Karrion Kross does here if he loses, but that's the beauty of it. They set it up last month where we both thought, hey, maybe he could win this, but he didn't. Now it's like he has to win this, or who knows what the future holds for Karrion Kross. So for a non-title match, it is rather interesting. Speaking of interesting, I have been more intrigued by the pairing of Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss than I think I would have ever given myself credit for to enjoy and to be entertained by. And World Wrestling Entertainment, baby. The Judgment Day, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez taking on Charlotte and Alexa Bliss, defending their tag titles, the women's brand. Man, I've seen that it apparently was always supposed to be a tag team between Charlotte and Alexa. I don't know how much I believe that, although if you watch WWE Unreal, everything is a work. Everything is what they want you to believe. So who knows?
Have you watched all the episodes?
Not all of them, no, but I what I've seen thus far, for at least through episode 1 and some of 2, it's just it's very intriguing to say the least of what they're willing to show and like how they're portraying it. Like it comes off like we want you to see what we're doing, but that also, as a wrestling fan for over 30 years, to me, I'm like, but they're showing you that because they want you to believe that, or like it's tough for me to buy it,
and that's a whole nother juice box. I finished all the episodes today, but and Charlotte was a prominent figure in a lot of those for obvious reasons. But you're right about Charlotte and Alexa. Even if it wasn't the original plan for them to be tag teams, this is one of the most entertaining parts of SmackDown. And I just find it amazing that they didn't think, or maybe they did, depending on who you ask. If they want to cheer Charlotte, who do you pair her up with? Alexa may never get booed again because Alexa's universally loved. Her connection with Bray Wyatt is still, in the back of most people's minds. And she's just universally one of the, the most consistent performers, whether it be in the ring, outside the ring, character development, changes in character. And the best part is they're doing this in the right way. And at the Judgment Day, I think, this time last year is where the Judgment Day fell apart. Can SummerSlam continuously be where the Judgment Day loses, the Judgment Day splits, falls apart, they have to regroup? I think that Charlotte and Alexa win this match. I don't know if it's going to be this match or maybe on Sunday, but I do think we see Liv Morgan, I don't know if costing them, but I do think we see Liv Morgan come out and cause some sort of chaos. It could be this match. It could be the Dom Mysterio match. And a separated shoulder, you never know how much time that's going to be, but I do think that this was such a monumental moment last year for Liv, where you have to do something to make sure that she's involved in this show as well.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, it sucks about the injury and how it kind of potentially, derailed what plans they would have had with Liv. But look, it opens up a spot for this match, and I like what Roxanne and Raquel have been doing. And to your point about the Judgment Day and SummerSlam, why not? Now, is that, do I automatically think that if Raquel and Roxanne lose, which I'm going to project does happen, I think Charlotte and Alexa win the tag titles and have a great moment here. I think that just because if that were to take place under this, I'm not necessarily sure everybody has to lose in the Judgment Day, but I would say it's the beginning of forming cracks and, some uncertainty in the Finn Balor kind of situation. I don't know. I'm not so sure that, Dom was going to lose and then the Judgment Day world tag titles. I don't think everybody is just going to fall apart so quickly, but I agree. I think Charlotte and Alexa do pick up the win and become tag champions, which would be, man, it's so funny that we were talking about the women's IC title and the US title for the women, about how it's being elevated by certain people holding them. If Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss hold the women's tag titles, that gives so much more credence to those championships. Am I crazy there?
Absolutely right. And that's why I think that they're going to put the titles on Charlotte and Alexa. And again, you can have them be champions for a while. You can see what they do in the fall, and in the winter. I don't necessarily need to see like a Charlotte heel turn where everybody says, you're tag champs. There's obviously going to be a split. I don't necessarily think that's needed. I think, Charlotte and Alexa can carry these titles and make them more interesting for the next 4 or 5 months till you get to Royal Rumble season. And then that's when you really put wheels in motion on what that WrestleMania card looks like. And I just really think, with Roxanne and Raquel, they can still be part of the Judgment Day, or, Liv can begin that feud between the three of them. Who does Raquel side with? Things of that nature. It goes back to Rhea got so popular where they had to take her out of the Judgment Day. You had Damian get so popular where he had to leave the Judgment Day. Who's the most popular person in the Judgment Day? Liv Morgan, even if she's not there. So I think that's the next person to potentially split away. And what better way than her coming back and causing more friction in the Judgment Day, whether it be intentional or accidental, that's to be seen.
And although it happens on night 2, outside of, Rhea and Damian and everybody, I think Dom is probably, low key the most not beloved. Maybe beloved is the right word, because you can be beloved, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as he is in the Judgment Day, I think that's all that'll hold it together, because that's, we always talk about how great it is to what's next for, insert talent. Dominic Mysterio post Judgment Day, I think, is going to be fascinating, because if you're not leaning on, Roxanne, Liv, Rhea, whoever, what does that mean? Will he sustain himself being a bad guy? Because everybody does seem to love him regardless, and now he's wrestling in AAA, and I don't know. That's going to be an interesting, I don't know, next transition for Dominic once the Judgment Day do eventually break up. We've been talking about them in the bloodline, and we're like 4 bloodlines deep now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, but let's talk about another women's match on this show. Women's title, Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill. Wow, a lot has happened since we last spoke, which would have been Saturday night's main event in Evolution. And even, once we knew after Money in the Bank that Naomi was, with the briefcase, we're like, man, seems like it's going to be Jade either, going to win the title and then immediately lose it to Naomi, or Jade's going to get stopped and Naomi's going to cash in, make it a triple threat. Well, Naomi cashed in at the end of Evolution and made that a hell of an ending for a hell of a PLE. And now she's wrestling on night 2 in a huge triple threat match. So now we get Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill one-on-one. And this is so intriguing to me, because both of these women, not similar trajectory, but I kind of view them in the same way of they've done a lot so far. Tiffany, I'd say, has done more, but I also would give that to injuries / storyline written out purposes for Jade.
Mm-hmm.
But they've both been kind of on this path of superstardom super quick, whether they're a babyface or a heel, and they've been thrust into huge stories. But now they get to go one-on-one, where I'm not so sure, Tiffany hasn't been helped by other women in her matches, and Jade has had some great dance partners in her matches. So now they both have each other.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see how this match goes. Give me like 12, 13 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I think you can showcase a lot here. I'm really unsure about who I want to win this, so I'm going to pass the buck to you. Jade and Tiffany Stratton, who do you have? And does this match intrigue you as much as it does me?
It does, and I think you hit all the right chords there. And it also shows to me that WWE has a lot of faith in Tiffany Stratton. Just because I think that she's the person that would need to carry the match a little bit more. We've seen Jade in some good matches, but those are 6 to 8 minutes. Tiffany can carry her own. She is very young still, but I have Tiffany winning this match, and I think it's the way of WWE to finally realize, okay, Tiffany is just a naturally born heel. And they're going to cheer Jade because of the physical presence that she looks like. She's still relatively newish. Like you said, she was off TV for a few months. She got her comeuppance against Naomi, especially at WrestleMania. I just think it's still a little too soon with Jade. And I say that because I think WWE realized that they may have pulled the trigger too soon on Tiffany, and it hasn't clicked on all cylinders. And I'm saying that because if they pull it on Jade, then where does Jade go? Okay, maybe you can have her face Nia. Nobody wants to see that. I think there's more on Jade's chase to championship glory and Tiffany cheating her way to a victory, whether it's, rolling up the tights or putting her feet on the rope, just doing whatever she can to win and escaping as champion and slowly turning her back to what really made her popular was a heel coming into WWE.
Yeah, and I somewhat agree. When you say that, I'm not going to necessarily agree that. Well, maybe that Jade, no one wants to see it, Jade and Nia. But to me, my point with if Jade wins the title and that's her first feud, that's great. But again, what's after that? Who are they going to put in there with Jade to accentuate Jade's positives and have her continue? And then if Tiffany loses, where does she go?
Mm-hmm.
I mean. to me, and we brought it up before too with the IC and US titles. I like that for the majority of how things are going right now, the US and IC titles for the women have really been anchored by the veterans.
Yeah.
So give me a Tiffany and Jade as this women's title match and let them kind of go forth. And ultimately, I think I agree with you. I think Jade does better with a chase. And I'm not here saying that she should win the Rumble yet, but I think that there's definitely more for her to go forth and have a chase to win. At the same time, man, she got Queen of the Ring. I mean, it only makes sense for her to kind of win and get that next step. Is Bianca going to be involved at all? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on what to do here, but I think ultimately, I've kind of talked myself into it because she did win Queen of the Ring. I'm going to take Jade Cargill to win this.
Okay.
I don't know what is going to happen after that, but I'm glad that I don't have to decide that ultimately. Yeah. So I'm going to go Jade Cargill, but man, I just hope that the match goes well. And I think you're dead on, dude. Tiffany has to carry this match, but I also think I think Jade has a lot of pressure on her to keep up that pace. So intriguing for sure. And I like that now we're disagreeing. Now we're doing something. Speaking of doing something, I think WWE hopes that Jelly Roll does more than a black hole slam. I'm curious for a lot of reasons for this next match. Randy Orton, Jelly Roll versus Logan Paul, and as of this recording, Drew McIntyre. It very well could be The Miz by the time we get to SummerSlam. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing because to me it's more believable than Drew and Logan Paul because I think that's a juggernaut tag team versus just Randy and Jelly Roll, to be honest with you. I think The Miz kind of makes it a perfect celebrity superstar interaction match. But that being said, man, I'm going to ask you first, Josh. You love ring gear. And I believe your mother is a Jelly Roll fan. So this is right up your alley here. And we saw Jelly Roll last year in Cleveland. What kind of gear are you anticipating for Jelly Roll to be in? I'm fascinated to see what he's going to wear.
I think he's going to wear what he typically wears. Like a
jeans?
Black jacket and like jeans. Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be like 90 in New York or New Jersey.
81. It's going to be 81 degrees, and if it's at 8 o'clock, it'll be like 70. He'll be fine. He ain't going to wear tights, Juice. Come on now. He's going to wear whatever he wants to wear.
He said it on Stephanie's Places that he plans on doing a body reveal, like a shirt takeoff by 2027. So he's on his way to getting there, but he doesn't have to go full chest here. He can have a singlet.
Maybe he'll do like the Vince McMahon cut off sweatshirt. We can do that or something. Maybe.
Well, how about this? Whatever, because we don't really necessarily have we seen workouts of him yet?
No, I don't think so.
Because I would wager if he has some sort of gear he works out in, that's what he would more likely wear. I know. You could be right, though. He could just wear jeans and his normal gear. I just think
he's going to show a little more skin. He'll show a little more arms, I bet you. So
I want him to come out in full-fledged singlet like Vader and just be a super heavyweight, go out there and just, I'd be so much better if it was The Miz because I'd buy it more. But
God, no. I hope it's not The Miz. I don't think it'll be The Miz. I'm pretty sure they'll get this figured out with McIntyre. But you're right, though. If The Miz was involved in this, it's maybe a little bit more believable that Jelly Roll and Randy Orton, stack up to it. I think Jelly Roll will put on some good moves. I think he'll do everything he needs to do to showcase that he has been training. So he'll do the black hole slam. He'll do, a couple of different things off the ropes. He only needs to do 2 or 3 minutes of stuff. That's really what he needs to do. And, maybe he goes on the top rope and flies. Maybe he's probably going to miss, but maybe he will do that. If I had to pick a winner, though, I think McIntyre and Paul. I wouldn't hate these two guys, working together more in the future. Not necessarily as tag team champions, but I do think that there is a lot more with Drew and Logan and them picking up the victory against Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. Randy Orton's at a point right now where he's just having fun. And I think with Logan Paul, I mean, Paul's a guy that just has a lot more losses, I feel, at this point than wins, right? And
Right.
last year he put over LA Knight. I think Logan
Yeah.
Paul is the guy here that can benefit the most from this, and McIntyre and Orton kind of just cancel each other out in terms of physicality of this match. I think they carry the match. I think Paul somehow steals the win.
Now, is Jelly Roll going to take the fall here, or does he need to look strong? Like what? I don't know, because to me, I agree. I think Drew and Logan should win, but I really think it's as easy as Orton could hit an RKO on anybody, and they can just put Jelly Roll on them. Like Jelly Roll pinning Logan Paul would
They
be
could do that. It's a good
great
moment.
fodder
Good
for
moment.
yeah.
I mean, that's definitely my other probably thought is, what do they want to make a viral moment? You can make fun of Logan Paul for losing to Jelly Roll, just further involve his, heel heat. I just think, if they really want to make, and they've been trying to, and I think he's done a good job, but he's saying he's a WWE superstar. It's hard for me to take him seriously if he does lose to Jelly Roll, no matter what the situation is. But I could see that happening too. Who do you have winning this?
I think, again, just like with Jade, I'm talking myself into Orton and Jelly Roll winning this match. Now, I know you could still get a viral moment without them winning, but damn, Jelly Roll pinning Logan Paul, it just sounds like what if we did this? And, I think people would pop for it. And, man, you could play off that forever with Logan Paul. And then at some point, Logan Paul could get something back, or I don't know, but Logan Paul's good for it. He could take a loss. Again, though, what is next for Drew and Orton and Logan? Like, because this is a stopgap and this is SummerSlam, like you'd normally think these guys would be in prominent matches. So I don't know, because I'd like to see any of those three potentially in the world title picture. Now, look, we'll talk about the main event, assuming it's the world title match and a couple of matches, but whoever walks out of there, I could conceivably think that any, Drew or Orton or even a Logan Paul could get that opportunity at whoever walks out as champion. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Something else that's interesting, and we talked about this a little bit purely based on who's in the match, but this is someone that's at least on the outside of the ring, but he's a focal point for sure. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso taking on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed with Paul Heyman outside. Tag team match here. Roman triumphantly made his return, and now he's doing great work with Jey Uso. We've got the Battle of the Spears here, Roman and Braun. I think that is a WrestleMania match down the line. Look, we'll probably get that before we ever get Rock Roman. So I'm here to take whatever awesome moments we can get from this point forward. I like the setup of this match. I also, again, I'm more curious as to what is next after this, because Roman's just returned.
Yeah.
Jey has been cooled off since he lost the title. And Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are a brand new thing. And like, shouldn't they be moving up the card too? Like, what do they have plans for with those guys? So, Josh, I'll ask you first, just where do you see this match leading to ultimately? I mean, what is next for whoever wins, or just general thoughts on this contest?
Yeah, it all just comes back to, is Seth going to be healthy and is he going to be around? I mean, I'll be honest with you, this past Monday without Seth was probably the most interested I've been in Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker since after WrestleMania, probably even well before that. I think they did a really great job at ending Monday Night Raw, just destroying Jey and Roman. And if you're doing the logical choice, you would say, well, Roman and Jey are going to end up, getting their revenge at SummerSlam. I ultimately think that Roman and Jey will win. That's not what I would, book, but I think they will. I can't see the two most popular faces. Even if Roman goes away for a couple of months again after this, I just can't see both of them losing. Again, because you had Jey losing and Roman, or I'm sorry, Jey losing at Monday Night Raw of the championship or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then Roman obviously losing his last battle at WrestleMania. I don't fathom that happening, especially at SummerSlam, and especially if you see more heels win, maybe night 2 than night 1. But again, I go back to, does it really hurt Braun and Bronson? Probably. But then again, it's very easy to heat them back up because they are still very young. There was a time where I thought, The Bloodline or Solo couldn't lose, and they kept losing, especially Solo. And then now he's U.S. champion. So there is a way that they can do it where Braun and Bronson lose, Roman and Jay get their nice moment, and then you just move on from Roman. Whether it be Braun and Bronson go after a potential new world heavyweight champion, or they can also continue to target Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. There's a lot of good faces on Monday Night Raw, so I don't think they'll have a problem finding their next feud. It just goes back to my main point of being, do I really think that they will book Roman and Jay to lose to put over Braun and Bronson? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. And it is interesting to see where all four of these guys could be going afterwards. You brought up Seth. I think him not being there gives these guys a chance to elevate, on the mic. And then you get this huge spot on a PLE with the Bloodline. So I think it's a huge match for Braun and Bronson. Arguably their highest profile match, no?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Roman and Jay have to get the win here. Although Braun and Bronson winning would really, really impress me, because then it's like they are destined for a lot. But I think they are destined for a lot, but I don't know if that's now. I still think they'd rather have whatever is going on with Seth in the briefcase kind of sort itself out before they pull the trigger on a Braun and Bronson thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Because ultimately, I don't know. I want to see Braun Breaker, like, here comes the pun, break away from this group eventually. I think he has just immense star power right there. But I think he needs to be in this group to kind of cultivate and hone in, learn from a Seth Rollins and a Paul Heyman and get better. So I don't think the time's there yet, but
yeah,
Roman and Jay, I think
you're right. Yeah, a little too soon for them, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get to the main event. Although it might open the show. We don't know the lineup of these matches yet, but based on posters alone, with the one poster being Cena and Cody, the other poster being Gunther, CM Punk, World Heavyweight Championship on the line here. Man, it has been a very long time since CM Punk has had an opportunity like this. And he was an AEW World Champion, but before then it was 2012, 2013. He was last champion. I mean,
it's been a while.
It's been a very long time since CM Punk has been a world champion in WWE. And this is a huge match for him. Assuming it's main eventing, I think, look, regardless of Seth Rollins' involvement, because I think he does, regardless if he even shows up, I think it is going to be played up that, well, he could be lurking. What if I think they'll absolutely lean into that of like, could he be here? Where is he? He honestly, I'll tell you this, Josh, if the main event is Punk Gunther, I would be fascinated to see where they put the Roman J. Braun Bronson match on the card, because they could talk about Rollins. Maybe Rollins is shown. Maybe he even comes out like on crutches.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is even alluded to, once we get to this Punk Gunther thing, I think all bets could be off, and that's where you could see some funny business. But assuming Rollins doesn't get involved, man, I'm gonna take CM Punk. I think CM Punk ultimately wins the world title here, and I don't know what's next for either guy, but I think that you could lean into, if Punk's world champion. I said this a while back, but of course they had their match at Night of Champions, so it was null and void. But I thought that the only way to get Punk Cena was going to be at Perth, where you're champion versus champion for the crown jewel title.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's Punk and maybe even Cody by then, that's also intriguing. So Josh, who walks out as world heavyweight champion? Gunther, Punk, or someone else?
I'm just going to say I don't think Gunther walks out as champion. Can I give that answer?
Yes, but who do you think wins this match?
Somebody that's not Gunther. I don't want to be wrong here.
No. Pool party gaming, you're gonna have to pick.
You're gonna have to pick and not listen to me. I'm wrong 60% of the time. every time. But if I had to go between Gunther and Punk, I do think Punk picks up the win here. Going back to what CM Punk has done since his return, has done everything right. Got the opportunity to main event WrestleMania, which was a great moment, an excellent match. Obviously that big match at Night of Champions against John Cena, losing last year, even though, it was against Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as the referee. So Seth kind of stole a little bit of that spotlight of Punk in his first match back in a handful of months. I just can't see, CM Punk losing again at SummerSlam. I think Punk deserves to be champion at this point. And I also think Punk right now has more money, has more marketability, and him being champion now. And if you put the title on him now, I think he can go through other heels. I mean, we talked about Bronson and Braun. I mean, you don't want to strap the rocket to them yet, but those are likable opponents for him just due to keeping that story with Paul Heyman going. He could have some backup at times from Jey Uso because they are friends in real life. So that kind of keeps Jey in the spotlight a little bit. But ultimately it comes down to, for me, who needs the bigger spotlight, who needs the bigger win, and who's more deserving. And nothing against Gunther, but they always talk about him being champion 80% of the time that he's been in WWE, and he's only lost a few times, both of those big times at WrestleMania. Well, maybe Gunther, always wins, but doesn't always win the big one on the big show. And I think that's a good point for trying to just continue to build up Gunther into what's next for him, which I don't know what's going to be next for him. I also think the fact with him and Ludwig Kaiser, they really didn't have like a falling out, and now he's obviously El Grande Americano, so that kind of irks me a little bit. Allegedly, yeah. But I think Punk's the ultimate winner here. And if you want a feel-good moment, not a shock moment, not a surprise moment, whether that be Seth on Saturday cashing in or what be it, the feel-good moment is Punk standing tall at MetLife Stadium, especially considering, MetLife is where WrestleMania 29 was at, where he was not happy that he was not in the main event of WrestleMania 29, and that was The Rock and John Cena. Could be a really good touch to say, hey, we're making it right now for you. And I think that's a good spot and a good feel and a good ending for SummerSlam Night 1.
And I think I agree with that. I love the MetLife connection. And yeah, I mean, they brought it up on Unreal. And Triple H is being like, you're CM Punk. Like, we know you've deserved this. You've earned this. This is where you are. This is who you are. It's where you should be. And I think that everything, and we talked about it whenever he first came back into WWE at the end of 2023, that, look, Punk knows, the company knows, everybody knows that this is like his last real chance. Mm-hmm. And if he were to mess this up, or even if it's not his fault, have something fall through, whatever reason, it just not work, that he probably is like cool with not being a wrestler anymore. He could probably do things in wrestling, but this is his chance. And so far, very good. I mean, he's done a lot of great things. The Drew McIntyre stuff has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed his Seth Rollins stuff. Yeah. I'm hoping that they can button that up eventually, which, I don't think we are done with that. With a briefcase in tow, if he doesn't cash in and Punk wins, it's like a very obvious, always lurking in the background thing that I think they could play up on too. Of Punk being champion and he's worried about his next opponent, yet you got Seth waiting in the wings and Punk being like, come on, don't be a coward, put it on the line, let's do it. Like, I think they have a lot there, a lot of juice, if you will. And I agree. I think that the feel good moment is, hey, you got your WrestleMania main event, you've been an upstanding guy in the locker room to all that I could see, at least from an outside perspective and what I've read, and you've earned what you've gotten since coming back into the fold here. So take your moment in the sun again, get a world title under your belt, and roll with it as champion and see where things go. And like you said with Gunther, it kind of, it's weird. It's almost that he's better as a chase, or like as the dominant champion you're never beating, but it like doesn't work as well for the world title.
Yeah.
And it's just, IC champion worked, but as a world champion, you kind of want to have multiple people.
There needs to be more of Gunther than just identified as a champion. Yeah. Right. There needs to be that next evolution of Gunther at this point. It's been, 3 years, really 3 WrestleManias, 39, 40, and 41. There needs to be that evolution of him. And I think the evolution of him is not being champion, because that's
Yeah.
something that we haven't seen. So yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I think, Punk standing tall to end the night, feel good moment. And I'm excited because that'll turn into what, WrestleMania Sunday could just be just all chaos all over the place.
What do you mean SummerSlam Sunday?
What did I say? WrestleMania Sunday, SummerSlam Sunday. Yeah.
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 Well, it's the only other show that has 2 nights, so it's conceivable to think that. Plus, and we'll talk about it, night 2 has a ton of stuff to it. So overall, before we dive into night 2 here, because things have been progressing pretty well and we've got 6 matches to go, so we're just going to keep on keeping on. Josh, what are your thoughts on night 1 as a whole, top to bottom in the card, and what are you looking for ultimately to come out of this night 1?
Just advancing storylines. I think this is a storyline driven, night 1. It's more for the wrestling fan. It's more for the traditional wrestling. And night 2 is going to be the spots. It's going to be, still great matches, but it's going to be more just chaotic. I think night 1 is, possible with having some surprises, having some returns, potentially with Liv or with Seth Rollins. But overall, this one, I know everybody looks at night 2 as a sexy one, but this one really, I think you can make a case for, I would say 5 of the 6 matches, in my opinion, could go either way. And that's really great because you're just not sure on most of these matches. We disagreed, I think, on 2 or 3 of them. And typically we only disagree on like 1. But I think overall, this is going to be a really solid start and really carry over into night 2. And it's also, I really think that they learned after WrestleMania this year that when WrestleMania night 2 Sunday ended, people were still kind of talking about night 1 positively, and night 2, the only real positive that was, prominent was the women's triple threat match.
Right. And look, as we transition into night 2, I mean, look, you made a slight error by saying it was WrestleMania Sunday earlier, but when you look at this show, you get another potential amazing triple threat for the women on night 2. You get Cena and Cody again. So I think it's very possible that they're like, hey, not often do we get a second chance, but damn it, let's try and put forth our best foot, because I always have heard that once from SummerSlam to Rumble, it's kind of like BS season. Like not a lot happens. It's the fall. A lot of people watch football, but now, Raw's on Netflix. So like, it doesn't really matter. And it's going to, so like, it's still going to kind of be a prominent thing. And they still want to have, things progressing. And you got Crown Jewel in Perth, which is a huge show. And they're going to do Survivor Series at Petco. So that's going to be really cool in November. But you want to start off that run and kind of conclude your summer with this show and this night. Now, I know Clash in Paris is next, but this is their big show of the year. So I think, it depends on how they want to start night 2. Do you think it's better to start off with the triple threat? Maybe, do they dare start it off with a TLC 6-pack? There's a lot to go on here. What do you think should start night 2?
The women. I think the women should.
Which women? There's 2 matches.
Naomi, Rhea, and Io Sky.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
I tend to think so too, because it's going to be a hot start. It's going to be probably the best match of the night, if not weekend. And I mean best, just pure in-ring combined with drama. Let's talk about it. Women's world title triple threat, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Naomi. Naomi steals the title at the end of Evolution, which was a great PLE, and I'm glad that they pulled it off, and they had a great moment there. And now we get set up with a potentially amazing match, triple threat wise here. Naomi, Rhea, and Io. I just don't see Naomi losing so quickly, to be honest with you. She cashed in her briefcase. She's on a heater right now. I love everything she's doing. Her character is actually strong. Like, it's not just Naomi or Feel the Glow. This is like badass Naomi, and I'm here for it. And like I've said before, what's next? So what would be next for Io or Ripley or Rhea Ripley after this? I'm not sure, but maybe the IC title, US title. But ultimately, I think Naomi is going to retain this women's world title.
Yeah, I agree. I think Naomi picks up the win, and I think she picks up the win in the one storyline that has been underlying, and we saw it in the backstage segment on Raw, is Io saying, "Hey, Rhea, you've never beaten me," and I do think we see a big move from Rhea onto Io, and Naomi just throws her out of the ring and steals the pin. That's an easy way to keep that heat, keep that heel on Naomi, and Rhea doesn't get hurt. Io can take the pinfall because I think she's liked differently than Rhea. Rhea is viewed as this like larger than life, star. Io is likable because people, in a weird way feel like they can relate to her because she's not this just powerful presence that just completely overtakes your screen. She's just so damn good. But I think Io takes the pin and Naomi just steals it from Rhea. I don't know how long Naomi will have the championship. I think she has done a great job, but at the same time, I wouldn't be against her carrying it for a few months. And like you said, the Intercontinental Championship match, we'll talk about that in just a second. It's going to open the door. Rhea, Io, you have Stephanie Vaquer, who's not even on the card, but is getting a championship match. You have a lot of these women that can, and if there's a returning Liv, there's a lot of moving pieces, especially on the Raw side of things. We saw that 8-person tag with a lot of talent. So I don't think they'll have a problem because I think whoever Rhea feuds with, she'll make really interesting. Whoever Io feuds with, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, I think that she is going to need another star to really go after, a star to keep her on the level that she's at right now.
Yeah. And I think the best point you made there was just how many moving pieces. And there's only 2 world titles, but that's why there's an IC and US title now for the women. And there's even room for the women to have the tag to where Charlotte and Alexa Bliss are like 2 of the biggest stars of the women's roster of the last 10 to 15 years. And they're in a tag title match. Like they're not even in the main, course here for world titles or any singles championship. So, and I some people might even gloss over that Stephanie Vaquer has a world title opportunity at Clash in Paris. Now, do we know which title is it for?
I don't, but I think it is. I mean, I'd assume, but we know what that happens. What you do when that happens, but I'd assume it'd be Naomi.
You think is it for a title or is it her choice of? We don't know.
I don't think they confirmed it, but I thought there was already seeds planted that she was going to come after Naomi, but
it just says world championship match. So it could be, it says women's world championship now. That would be, is that that's Raw Naomi. One?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they have confirmed it's for the Raw women's title. So Naomi and Stephanie Vaquer would be quite intriguing.
And I don't think they'd want to pull the trigger on Stephanie and Rhea because I think there's a lot where you can get intrigue in that in a higher level PLE.
Right, and I don't want to book ahead to a show that we'll talk about in a month, but let's just say Naomi wins, then you get Stephanie Vaquer versus Naomi. I mean, if Jade doesn't win her match, she could cost Naomi. I could see Stephanie Vaquer winning that title, and just moving forth to where we could build to that potential Rhea Ripley down the line. You got War Games, which I think will be in a lot of intrigue this year with the women because there's so much talent. Yeah. So I don't know, man. A lot of intrigue on the women's side, but I ultimately am picking Naomi. You as well?
Same here.
Let's talk about no DQ, no count out, last chance match for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. If Becky Lynch wins, Lyra can no longer challenge for the title as long as Becky is champion. We're finally here at a third match, and this is, anything goes. What do you think is most important here? Is it the stipulation that if Lyra doesn't win, she can't challenge as long as Becky's champion? Because to me, that is what it is, considering if Becky wins, anybody could come in and have this opportunity, but it kind of pushes Lyra to the side. And I don't know if she can handle that right at the moment. What say you?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that is they've done, and this is nothing against Lyra. I think she is a great wrestler. They've really pushed her. Like they've really pushed her to make her feel really important. And I mean, this past Monday was not her best on the mic. Let's be honest. She stumbled at the very beginning, never really got under her feet. She's had some better performances. Um, Ultimately, I think the most important part here is the no disqualification, no count out, because I think that a vengeful Bailey will align herself with Becky Lynch, not necessarily being her tag team partner, but helping Becky Lynch win. You know, her and Becky came up together. And
Yeah.
although there's all this animosity, you know, Bailey's upset that she's been pushed aside and Lyra's kind of taken that spot and Lyra just beat her. So I think that Bailey coming out and, you know, really interfering and costing Lyra, you can make Bailey and Lyra feud for a couple of months, and then you can decide what you want to do with Becky, because again, like we said, there's so many women on the side of Raw where you can have Io, you know, Io and Becky. That's not really a step down at this point. You know, the Intercontinental Championship for the women is just as important, sometimes more intriguing than the Women's World Championship. So I think this is the last chance Lyra gets for the Intercontinental Championship, and I think Becky wins with the help of a Bailey coming out and costing Lyra the title. And Bailey can easily just explain to everybody, you know, on Monday, you know, I was out, you cheered for Becky, you know, and then Lyra came in. There's just a lot of things Bailey can be upset about, and I think it's just all of this is bottling up inside of her. And what better way to flip her than to help Becky Lynch and screw over Lyra Valkyria, who is her initial tag team partner.
Right. And I think you're dead on. The fact that it's two of the four horsewomen, I think, make a lot of sense. And, you know, then you can set up, you know, some sort of tag match with Lyra, and maybe she gets a partner to go against Becky and Bailey at some point, and you can kind of further that. And eventually you can get Bailey saying, well, I did help you, but I really want to have another shot. Like, let me have this chance at your title, Becky. Like, I helped you.
Yep.
You better, you know, pay up. So I'm in agreement with you here. I think Becky should ultimately walk out as champion. Now, you know, somewhat concerned with what Lyra can do going forward, but there is so much depth. There are plenty of different titles to potentially challenge for, and they've been pushing Lyra pretty hard. So I'm not too concerned, honestly, that she'll get lost in the shuffle. They've done a lot to put her as a higher, you know, credible player in the game right now. So yeah, I think it all makes sense if Becky walks out as champion. So yeah, and the stipulation's only if Becky's champion. So as soon as Becky loses it, Lyra could get right back in there.
Absolutely. She's not pulling a Cody. If I lose this, I'll never challenge for this title again, like he did in AEW. But yeah,
yeah,
neither here nor there.
No, it's not. But what's here, there, and everywhere is a 6-pack challenge TLC for the WWE Tag Team titles. My God. Wyatt 6, Joe Gacy, and Dexter Lumis defend their world tag title, or their WWE tag titles, versus Andrade and Rey Fenix, DIY, Praxium, the Motor City Machine Guns, and the Street Profits. It's been a while since we've seen a tag team TLC match. It's been a while, like on a PLE. But 25 years since the first TLC match. I think it makes all the sense in the world. SummerSlam 2000 had it, and now SummerSlam in 2025 gets a TLC match. But the fact that it's a 6-pack challenge, you got 12 guys in there. I say 12, but I really mean 12 plus anybody else in the Wyatt 6 that want to help. Anybody that's friends with any of these other teams could absolutely insert themselves into this damn thing. This is going to be insane, man. I don't know who to necessarily pick either, because in a TLC match of all things, it doesn't matter. If you're champions and you lose this, you're not buried. It's insane. So I'm just going to go on a limb here, and man, purely because I still want them to move forward, I'm not going to pick the Street Profits. I want better for them. I still want Montez to have a singles run, so I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm gonna say I would like to actually see Andrade and Rey Fenix win these tag titles. I don't know why, but I kind of really like this team that they've had, and pretty much every other team here is a traditional tag team. And I think that's why I'm not going to choose them, is because they've all kind of had their moment thus far. I will say this. I think a team that could be the underdog, underrated, no one's going to pick, but they could pull it out as Fraxium. I think that's a team that could really shock a lot of people. But ultimately, I'm taking Andrade and Rey Fenix. Josh, what do you anticipate for this match, and who you got?
Absolute chaos. It's funny because when I look at this, I have two thought processes. The Wyatt Six are recently new tag team champions. They can put the tag team title division out, but if they do that, then how do they, I mean, again, they could make it happen, but who's next up for the Wyatt Six? If they beat these 5 other teams, and these 5 other teams have been trying to go after the Wyatt Six for a few weeks now and trying to basically work with each other to take them down. I don't know who would be next up in line, but I'm not going to think like that. I'm going to think more along the lines of, I just can't see the Wyatt Six and the tag team titles get flipped again. We've seen the Motor City Machine Guns tag team champions, and then we saw, Street Profits, and then we saw DIY, and then we saw, all these random teams, not random, but all these teams become WWE tag team champions on SmackDown only for a few weeks, a month, so I want to see more stability, and I'm okay with whenever championships change, but for the Wyatt Six, they've never fully clicked. And I think if you give them a reason to click, and I think the tag team division could be a really good spot for them, because they're not going to be main event people. And they're also not they're not mid-card people either, right? Like, they're a faction, they're a group, they need something to care about. And I think that having them retain benefits them, and also gives the other tag teams a chance to kind of fight from the bottom all the way back up again. It does limit, again, additional opponents for them, because they might be off TV for a few weeks and not be in any matches when other teams try to get that opportunity. But maybe that's a good thing, because the good thing is, for the Wyatt Six, less is more sometimes. You don't want to see them every single week defending tag team championships, especially when you have what it seems to be the workhorses or the traditional tag teams on Raw, like the New Day or the Judgment Day. Traditional tag teams like that. I want a little different on SmackDown. So that's why I'm going to go with the Wyatt Six to retain here.
And I think you made some good points there. I do like that. Look, let's just say the Wyatt Six end up winning it. All right, everybody has to get back in line and start again. And they can kind of be nice for a refresh. I know that might not be the preferred method for some other divisions, but in a division where, any tag team can come up at any time and kind of, like Andrade and Rey Fenix, they put them together and now they're in a huge spot here. So I feel like you open up opportunities for any of the teams that don't win to get traction, get momentum again to going forward. Because I really would prefer, now that they've got 2 sets of tag titles, let's see them more often on some of these shows. I'm glad that we get this match. Now, it does kind of come off as, well, we'll make it a TLC with 6 teams. That's how we're putting the tag titles on. We're not just going to do a straight up tag match, but the Machine Guns were in a huge match at the Rumble for the tag titles, 2 out of 3. So I don't know. I think the tag division's also in pretty good hands as of now.
Yes, sir.
What will not be in good hands is the fate of these next 2 men in a steel cage for the United States Championship. Solo Sikoa takes on Jacob Fatu. Wow. This is crazy that we have all these crazy gimmick matches in one night, but I don't know. It's kind of intriguing. You get a TLC, a steel cage, and a street fight all in one show, and it's not Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
Kind of fascinating. Man, it was quite the scene when Solo Sikoa picked up the win at Night of Champions. We were there. We watched it. And now, we always talk about what's better. Is it the chase, or is it actually winning? And Jacob Fatu was champion pretty damn quick. And I even mentioned on this program, look, man, Solo Sikoa came out and interfered and cost Drew McIntyre, and it was this huge deal. And he's been now taken, behind in 3-4 different people have come up and all added themselves to the bloodline, to where Jacob Fatu is like the number 1 guy out of the guys that aren't Roman or the Usos. But now Solo's got a team, practically has his own bloodline. I can easily see where these two guys could have a team of 4 guys for War Games later in the year, but we're not there yet. But this is a steel cage match, and this is definitely the catalyst for what could happen in November. This is tough. I think Solo Sikoa retains this championship. Although I want to see Jacob win it, but I also think there's more money in him. Man, I couldn't get it done again. So,
and I also think at this point for Jacob, him losing, you can always fall back on the Bloodline storyline. And I'm not saying that the Bloodline storyline will be over, but I'm okay with somebody that's not Samoan facing somebody that's that's Samoan. I don't need to see Samoan warfare every single month, and I think we've gotten too complacent with that, whether it be Solo or Jacob or Roman or Jay or Jimmy.
I wouldn't even say complacent as much as I'd say they just lean on it. They go, you know what works? The Bloodline. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And they've gotten lucky with Solo and Jacob being like bigger stars now.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Solo, Jacob's, I'm good with Jacob going and doing something else for a little while outside of the Bloodline if he loses, or, he aligns himself with other faces. I know he's so over right now. I think there's a lot more to him. If you want to elevate the US title, you put it on Jacob, and then you have Jacob face heels, maybe like a Drew McIntyre or even a Logan Paul, somebody like
that. What I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, but if you don't, you keep it on Solo, and you don't want to keep going with those two guys, well, then you have guys like a Damian Priest. Then you have guys on the SmackDown roster that are faces that are, quote unquote, in limbo. And what are they going to do next? So they have no real wrong answer here, but I'll agree and say Solo picks up the win here.
Yeah. And I the point you made about they don't want to just have Bloodline and Bloodline guy, but yeah, they do kind of lean on it. It does come off as complacent. But it has worked. But, how long can they continue it? I mean, this is, how many SummerSlams now? And now both nights we still have, Roman and Jay on one side of SummerSlam. And on the second night, you got the two next in line in a steel cage match for a secondary title. So they're just as big and popular in just different ways. It's just not your traditional, we're the Bloodline and we're beating everybody up and who's going to take us out. It's kind of fragmented, and their own guys now, like Jey Uso was his own man, won the Rumble, won the world title. Roman's doing his own thing, and he's got his own problems with other people. And now the Bloodline is kind of these other guys, the secondary guys, giving them opportunities to showcase what they have. And I love that these two get a steel cage match. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, when's Jimmy going to get his singles title opportunity? That's another one, because they're going to lean on the Bloodline, the Samoan families as long as they can. He would be next in line if Jacob loses. They're on good terms, so why not Jimmy getting a shot at Solo? So I think there are a lot of pieces, and I don't think they'll move on from the Bloodline storyline here. I would like them to, just to freshen it up a little bit. But that's also another guy that you can see potentially facing Solo for another month or two, and maybe he gets the opportunity to be U.S. champion.
And I can easily see that whether it's Solo winning or how he wins, because I'm sure even though it's a steel cage match, I'm sure the likes of a JC Mateo or anything are going to get involved. And that's where I want to see Jimmy, save the day, help out Jacob, and then ultimately be the guy to go, I want to take you on Solo. And Jacob can be the cheerleader for him and be with Jimmy for tag matches and it not really hurt Jacob. Look, man, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. And I know how much you love when I predict Royal Rumble winners outside of when it's going to happen. But I picked Jey Uso in May of last year, and he won this year. I think Sami Zayn could easily win the 2026 Royal Rumble. I am not going on record yet, but I would not be shocked if Jacob Fatu is a Royal Rumble winner within the next 5 years.
Yeah, next 5 years for sure.
Maybe quicker than that. So we'll see. But yeah, man, I honestly, I'm really intrigued by that match. The bloodline fatigue is real, but these two guys by themselves in a barbaric match like this fits the Samoans. So I kind of dig this.
Yeah, me too. And I don't
ultimately.
really dig this next match, even though I know realistically, we're going to dominate AJ Styles. Have you liked this storyline?
I don't know if I've liked it as much as I'm entertained by it.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, let's say Roxanne and Raquel lose, right? And maybe even Liv gets involved, something. Dom is still, it's so funny because he's not and never really has been the leader of the Judgment Day, yet he's been the poster boy for that group. Like, so until he's not a focal point of being that heel, Dirty Dom, I think the Judgment Day is still going to keep going. So him as champion, they almost had this match at Night of Champions. They didn't. And I think AJ Styles has some other fish to fry later on this year in regards to TNA, quite honestly. So I don't necessarily see him as IC champion at this point. And I think this would actually help boost Dom as, look, you beat AJ Styles. I don't care what year it is, what title's on the line. If you beat AJ Styles, that's a pretty good, notch in your belt, especially if you're the champion and you've retained, like you prevented one of the GOATs from, taking the title from you. But as for the storyline, yeah, I'm kind of just indifferent outside of I am entertained. And I think Dominic Mysterio is going to retain the championship.
All right. Well, I'm going to go AJ Styles winning. And I think AJ wins here. I think, they're on the tail end of AJ's career. I think whenever you look at elevating championships, has Dom done anything with the IC title to make him feel like a champion? No. And I think that's
No.
his sweet spot, is championship or not, people still will be interested to see him. AJ is always a fan favorite, so you could say the same thing about him. But I take him more seriously as Intercontinental Champion, and it doesn't hurt the Judgment Day if they lose the titles, because you'll still have Finn and JD and the rifts between them being the only champions left. I think it was pretty interesting whenever, that backstage segment on Raw was kind of foreshadowing to SummerSlam saying, hey, we all got our championship still. Well, this time last year, not a lot of people in the Judgment Day had championships. So I'm interested to see, again, going back to a year later, I do think that this is a continuation of, hey, SummerSlam's never good for Judgment Day. And I think it starts and actually ends because the Judgment Day's tag team title matches night one with Liv and Raquel. But I think AJ picks up the win here.
Wow. So do you think, if let's say there is no Liv, there's no like future story interference with a Dom, whatever, does that affect AJ? Like, you just think AJ still wins regardless?
I think AJ wins regardless. Yeah. It could go one of two ways. The Judgment Day could try to interfere. And I think Liv will make her presence felt either night one or night two. I don't know. Yes, I think AJ wins whether there's interference or not. To be honest with you, if there's 6 matches here and these other matches are no disqualification, cage matches, TLC matches, this might be an 8-minute match where AJ picks up the win, and that's it for Dominic as Intercontinental Champion. It doesn't affect a chicken crap heel like Dominic Mysterio to lose like that, because that's how his character's been for the past 2 years.
Yeah, then you make a good point there. It kind of sucks that there really hasn't been much after that epic like win at WrestleMania and him coming back out for that like kind of curtain call.
Yeah.
But I think he's one of those guys that doesn't need a title necessarily, especially as big of a heel as that he is. Ultimately, I think when he wins the world title, if and when he does that, I think that's going to be a huge like moment for so many reasons. But I think now he doesn't really need a title to kind of define who he is, and his character leads the way. So I could see AJ winning, but I'm going to pick Dom to retain. Let's get into it. We saw the match happen at WrestleMania. We were together with a bunch of people. We watched it unfold, and we said, well, that was a match. And now we get the sequel. Sometimes sequels suck. Sometimes they're as good. And in this case, hopefully, this match is better than their first one. Street fight for the undisputed WWE Championship. John Cena defends against Cody Rhodes. Man, I do not foresee Travis Scott in this match. I do not foresee The Rock in this match. However, Street Fight makes me think something is going to happen. Josh, I know you avoided, Gunther and Punk, and well, Gunther's just not going to walk out with it, but I don't know who will. Who walks out as the undisputed WWE champion? And is there a chance Seth Rollins could cash in here?
There's always a chance. Nobody thought Naomi was going to cash in on Rhea and Io, so there's always a chance. Look, I think they got to wipe the bad taste out of our mouths from WrestleMania. They just have to. And I think Cody picks up the win here. I think he retains the championship. I'm not completely sold that The Rock won't be here.
Okay. Hey, you brought up Punk at MetLife. Cena and Rock had their moment at MetLife. Let's just rehash Mania 29's best bits.
Like, there's a way that Cody wins and either Rock comes out after, confronts him, or in Cena, whatever. I don't know how, and I'm not even gonna try to predict it, but I just want the loose ends from a story that was almost 2 years long with Cody facing The Rock in a tag team match, and then facing, John Cena. There's just to tie up the loose ends, even if The Rock comes back and he's only here for a few months and whatever, we got to have some sort of resolution. I'm still not completely sold that John Cena is going to be a heel whenever he has his last few months. And this is the best time for him to kind of revert back to himself. Now, would it be a failure if you say, how was his heel turn? No, I don't think it was a failure. I think it's just more of people don't want to boo Cena now because it's not 5 years ago. It's not 6 years ago. And this is
time's running out.
Yeah. So I'm going to do Cody. If I bet $5, I say maybe Rock shows up, but there just has to be something more from him. And I just feel like him coming out and they can say this is the plan all along, turn on Cena. Doesn't necessarily mean Cody's going to have to be heel, but have, him, get in the face of Cena and something happens there. You can, play with that as it is.
So then I told Paul, let's have them have a terrible match at WrestleMania so that when we run it back at SummerSlam and I do show up, it'll be a great match.
Yeah, you love that. You love that. You're such a troll on Twitter. I love it.
Well, and of course, you just diffused what I was going to say. But if The Rock shows up here, I could see this being a double turn and Cody fulfilling what Rock wanted him to do in the first place. And you said, they could say whatever the hell they want and go, you know what? This was the plan. Or Triple H will on the presser, he'll go, well, did you like it? Did you like what you saw?
Yeah.
So
got to spin it any positive way you can.
That's right. I brought up with Unreal. It's like kayfabe now, because there was kayfabe, and then people were like, "Oh, kayfabe's dead," and I think they said that in the Austin podcast with Triple H.
Yeah.
But now it's like kayfabe is whatever kayfabe's alive, but it's whatever WWE wants you to believe, which is kind of great because it's almost like we're back to, well, it's fake, but you don't know how fake we're going to make it, or what we're going to do, which is how I've kind of operated since, breaking that kayfabe wall and being like, well, I know it's kind of scripted, but I'm still really entertained by wrestling. So why the hell should I care if it's real or not? Yep. I think if WWE leans into that, then they are safe. But it is what it is. It's a bizarre time. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan, but they're just like, here's all the 6 guys in Elimination Chamber, and they're all discussing how to make the match happen. So,
it's the world we live in, Juice. Everything's a work. It is.
Hey,
I live for Merlot. We're out of Merlot.
I've been ahead of that. Everything, because they can always say it, and I think that's the genius of it. Is WWE. They brought it up before with how they would run Raw or Nitro and be like, it's live. Like, if you trip over the cord, say you planned it. What is stopping anybody? So, but back to this match, man. I think you're right, though, ultimately, of Cena is just, it's not that it didn't work, but it was never going to be able to top what you did at Elimination Chamber. And I'm still firm on, man, if you just had Cena win the Chamber and deny The Rock there, and then turn at Mania to win the title would have been so much like better and effective. And
Sure.
you kind of ignore or don't have to have the Travis Scott thing. Like a lot of stuff derailed that whole thing.
But
So the matches and everything or whatever. But go ahead.
yeah, no, but also, yeah, I get that for sure. I think the moment might have been bigger if he did it at WrestleMania, but I look back at it now and everything's, hindsight 2020 is, you do that at WrestleMania and then you don't have that month of Cena kind of explaining why he did it. Like he got the match.
True.
So
but did he really explain it?
I mean, yeah, like everybody, he gave everybody everything and got nothing in return for 20 years.
Yeah, and he ruined wrestling.
Well.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
And they did a good job at, for those, 2 or 3 weeks being in international crowds, which made it so much more better. So they were more concerned about the build to WrestleMania than the effects post WrestleMania, which I get.
I can agree with that. I got you.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the whole show, though. I mean, everything that there, I was skeptical about 2 nights of SummerSlam, but there really isn't a match that I see on this card where I'm like, that's probably shouldn't be a SummerSlam match. So the 2-night SummerSlam, I'm okay with this year. Do I want it every single year? Probably not. But with what they've built and how they built this card, good storylines. Some storylines just because they want to have some really good spots and some entertaining night 2 festivities. I'm excited for it, and I think it's going to deliver on a handful of ways. I'm just not sure what the big story is on Monday when it's the dust is all settled. Is will it be Cody being will it be The Rock returning? Is Seth's injury at work? There's just a lot of things that could be the leading story heading into Monday.
And I know it's not, they don't work like this, but because they announced that Minneapolis 2-night SummerSlam next year, it's kind of like they have to do it. And I know they would never not do it, although they said Mania was going to be in New Orleans and they pulled off of that. So anything could happen in the World Wrestling Federation. But I just think that this first 2-night SummerSlam is a huge deal. And it's a gauge of like, well, one, let's see how the crowd looks.
Yeah.
And we're going to see because you were in Cleveland. How much did they tarp off?
So they really didn't tarp much off. They just left it open.
No one was there.
Exactly. But the cameras did a really good job for the most part of just not showing.
I agree.
That. Yeah,
I agree. It's just you know what I'm talking about though, of like the optics, and people are going to say
the aesthetics. Yeah,
the aesthetics don't look great, even though it looked great on TV. Is WWE really going to want to try to pull this off again? Because they were initially just going to do it next year, and they said, "Screw it, we got Cena one more year. Let's pull off a 2-nighter while we still got him."
And thinking of that, if they want to do a 2-night SummerSlam, like I get that, and they'll probably have 50,000 each night, and MetLife probably holds like 65 or 70, like a traditional football stadium.
And that's your New York crowd. Like they're pretty safe there.
Yeah, for sure. But like for instance, I mean, I always love if they can do a baseball stadium where it's 35,000. That's a better way. But again, it's going to be, we've had 85,000 fans over 2 nights. I think that means more to them, the actual total number, than the amount of number per night.
It absolutely does. And that's what they'll do. They'll do each night, but you're right. Because they've done that at WrestleMania. They're like, it's been 100,000+. And, it's what they want you to see. It's optics. And that's perfectly fine. I'm just hopeful it's successful. Pessimistically, I hope it's not that successful to where they go, you know what? Maybe we should do Royal Rumble for 2 nights. Like, I'm done. This is as far as I want. I'm cool with WrestleMania, and I think that was a genius idea. The best thing that could have come out of COVID was a 2-night WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And SummerSlam's the only other event I would be fine with if they like.
Same here.
I prefer it as one, but if they're going to do one every year that's like that, other than Mania, SummerSlam works because you get 6 matches each night. You get a whole bunch of talent on each night. You can make one night a traditional wrestling card and the other night a chaotic car crash.
Yeah.
Like, why not? So,
fingers crossed it's great, but it's not amazing. There we
go. Fingers crossed that they don't jump the shark. They just go and really just knock it out of the park. They have a lot going for them right now. So I just hope that it's a success, and I think it does hinge on that main event. So ultimately, to tighten this one up, man, purely because I think Cena has more to do. I think Cena's back half of this year, even though there's a lot less dates, should be done with him as a babyface. And I think that should be done with him not being champion. I don't know what else that means. Like, I don't know who he'll face and whatever is going to happen. But I mean, give me Punk Cody at Crown Jewel for the Crown Jewel title. Like, I'm cool with whatever else happens outside of thinking about Cena, because to me, they'll find something great for Cena to do as he closes it out. And hell, they probably already know what they want to, plan out for him. So I'm taking Cody as well.
Yep.
I don't know if we see a double turn or anything, but look, Cody and Punk ending night 1 and night 2 as champions, I think is a really, really nice change from what happened at Mania, where you had Cena walk out and you had Rollins turning with Heyman. You had two, in storyline negatives. Let's have SummerSlam end with 2 positives. So I'm here for it. But overall, man, just how excited are you for this? I mean, this is the WrestleMania of the summer, and it's going to lead into whatever we've got going into Royal Rumble. Like that, the Royal Rumble is the next big, like, turn the page moment. So how are you ultimately looking into this as we have this, but as you said, going forward to Monday?
I think I've already said everything I need to say. It's exciting. There's going to be a lot of talk about it next week, and I'm just happy to see 2 big nights of wrestling with 2 really, really unique, interesting cards that are very different from one night to the other.
I agree. Also, I did want to ask, because we didn't really mention it. I brought it up earlier. We didn't touch on it. Cardi B as the hostess, does she get involved in any of the women's matches, or do you think she just has like a segment with like a Chelsea Green, and that's probably
Chelsea Green segment I think is perfect for her. Chelsea's so great. No, I don't. She doesn't need to be involved in any of the matches. It makes no sense for her to be involved in matches. So yeah, a couple segments I think throughout both nights. That's all I need to see from her.
Any surprises that we haven't talked about that you think? Do we have anything on that?
No.
Do you have any idea on that? No.
I talked about earlier with Seth, Liv, and maybe Rock. So.
Wow. Ultimately, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I did want to ask you quickly before we head out, because I would be remiss in a terrible wrestling podcast host if I didn't ask this to you, because we have not discussed this at all. But the unfortunate passing of Hulk Hogan this past week shook up the wrestling world and the whole world in general. To be honest with you, it was in all the newspapers. All the news outlets covered it. I mean, whatever you want to say, he's on the Mount Rushmore for damn near everybody. Just what are your thoughts on his career and ultimately just him passing away? I mean, I always brought up that, man, Flair, Hogan, Brett, these guys are still around, but not as many.
Yeah.
And now we lost one of the greats. So what are your thoughts on Hogan?
Well, the greatest. I mean, he's the greatest. He's the greatest entertainer that pro wrestling has ever seen. Everybody said pretty much everything that I could echo at this point, 5 or 6 days later, but a guy that was able to transcend 3 different, decades. He was able to do stuff in the 80s and, be the clean cut babyface in the 90s and, transcending into the Attitude Era with, putting so much pressure on WWE to change and to create their own stars and not rely on the 45 to 50-year-olds and go to the 25 to 30-year-olds that were able to revolutionize the business. And, there's been so many great moments. 18's my most memorable one of him and Rock. Yeah. I can watch it 100 times, but, I'm talking about Hulk Hogan, the character. The person, I don't know. I've met once, a handshake. Not going to talk about his personal stuff because, hey, everybody makes problems. They're not justified. But talking about Hogan, what he contributed to pro wrestling, there's nobody that even comes close to what he's done. Not even Rock, not even Austin, not even Flair. He was the pioneer and was the pioneer for 30 years. So, rest in peace, Hogan.
And that's what I had said, is that you ask anybody, whether they've someone that doesn't even know wrestling or watch it or anything, if you say, hey, could you name me one wrestler at all?
Yeah.
And they might even say as a question, be like, oh, you mean like Hulk Hogan? Like it's that big of a name. So, man, just crazy times we live in here. But we got SummerSlam coming up. Really looking forward to this weekend as always. And we've talked about it earlier. Pool Party Gaming, free to play, free to win, 2 nights, 6 matches each night, a lot of props, a lot of fun to be had. Who knows who will walk out of SummerSlam and who will walk out of Pool Party Gaming, the SummerSlam Pick'em as the winner. But Josh, it could be you, maybe. If you play your cards right.
That's right. We'll see.
Depending on what I always love this because we always kind of have our own picks here, and then it comes to Pool Party, and it's like, oh, you went chalk, you picked all these guys. Oh, I see what you're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always going to be intriguing. But Josh, really appreciate you coming into the Juice Box as you always do. This has been really fun, and appreciate you anytime you come in for a PLE. I think the next time we'll be talking will likely be at the end of next month for Clash in Paris. But any final words?
Always appreciate being a member of the Juice Box Nation.
That's right. And for Josh Isenberg at Josh Isenberg 4 on Twitter, I am Juice Springsteen, and I will see you guys next week for another edition of the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.